Hey guys, how's it going? I'm Ricky with Tuba Da Vinci. Welcome to this episode of Overtime, where we talk about the week, give you a behind the scenes look at all the stuff we're working on and our progress with our videos and our net zero goals for our house. Now, we were off last week. We were actually on travel, so we didn't have a live stream. And it's been kind of quiet on the home series front, right? So our Tuesday videos are going to be about all of our home stuff. And it's been a little bit quiet. And the reason is because we've been finishing up work in here to finish the studio and stuff. So if you look behind me now, I'm in the recording studio. We've got, sound deadening, and it's made for this. We've got lighting pretty well sorted. We're not 100% there yet, but we do have a little something in the background that we'll be working on. And we're kind of back together. So there is also the main house where we had new electrical put in. So as a result, we ripped the drywall down, and that was a whole big mess. But the cool thing is, we're kind of getting there. Let me show you some pictures. Let me see if this works. We're kind of back together. You can kind of see the flooring is now in. We got some new also flooring. The main house where we had the TVs put back up, new electrical put in, and so as a result we ripped the drywall down. And that was a whole big one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long projects will take. Let me show you some pictures. The drywalling was rough. We don't do it very often. We did it ourselves together. You can kind of see the flooring is now in. We got some also the main house where we had TVs put back up, new electrical put in, big TV, and as a result we ripped the drywall down. That was a whole one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long projects. Show you what I'm talking about. So that's drywalling. We're kind of we don't do it very often. We did it ourselves. You can kind of see the flooring is now in. Also the main house. Yeah, you're going to put back a new electrical big TV, and as a result, we're going to drywall down. One of my big problems is I always underestimate we have a long project. Show you what I'm talking about. So that's drywalling. We're kind of we don't do it very often. We did it ourselves. You can kind of see the flooring is now in. Also the main house. Yeah, you're going to put back a new electrical big TV, and as a result, we're going to drywall down. One of my big problems is I always underestimate we have a long recording structure. Kind of got the drywall in there. We're kind of we don't do it very often. We did it ourselves. You can kind of see the flooring is now in. Also the main house. You're going to put back a new electrical big TV, and as a result, we're going to drywall down. One of my big problems is I always underestimate we have a long recording like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. We're kind of we don't do it very often. We did it ourselves. You can kind of see the kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show the big TV. In fact, as a result, I'd already got one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. We're kind of we don't do it very often. We did it ourselves. You can kind of see the kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show the big TV. In fact, as a result, I'd already got one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. But I kind of don't do it very often. I have found we're kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show the big TV. In fact, as a result, I'd already got one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. But I kind of don't do it very often. I have found we're kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show the big TV. In fact, as a result, I'd already got one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. But I kind of don't do it very often. I have found we're kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show the big TV. In fact, as a result, I'd already got one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. But I kind of don't do it very often. I have found we're kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show the big TV. In fact, as a result, I'd already got one of my big problems is I always underestimate how long like that on top. Kind of got the drywall in there. But I kind of don't do it very often. I have found we're kind of wrapping that up in. Also the main house. I'm going to show Okay. So sorry, I think I was muted. Yeah, Will, I'm really honored to have Will here. Is the echo okay now? Okay, sorry about that. I think I muted myself. So the let me just take a quick look at the settings here. So Will, it's really an honor to have you here. I'm a huge fan. I've been watching you for a long time, and a lot of my viewers have been telling me to connect with you as well. So yeah, my mic is back on, and so yeah, super honored to have you. I've been thinking about what I should do in terms of batteries. And I'm kind of still torn because I want to do maybe an off-grid system or maybe something more on-grid. But the challenging part is I want to be a net zero house, which means all my energy I produce, I store, and I use. But here in San Diego, I have a feeling we're going to have some utility policies where they're going to make it really lucrative and incentivized to provide them energy at times like 5 or 6, 7, 8 p.m. when peak prices are really high. Here in California, those times, electricity is super expensive. And I think they're going to start rolling out plans where homeowners who have battery backup or solar who can provide energy in those periods can get like an incentive, like get money to do it. So I'd hate to lose out on that opportunity. So I'm thinking maybe a split system, something UL listed on grid, kind of a normal battery, and then do something where I could have kind of a more DIY approach, and I can kind of explore and tinker. So that's kind of the strategy there. Yeah, apologies about the sound issues. I was sharing my screen, which I haven't done before, and I think the mic on the Mac was picking up as well. All right. So that's a quick look at why we haven't been doing home series videos. We do want to get started again. One of the things I've been thinking about, because it's officially hot in San Diego, and it happened really quick. So the house is starting to get really warm, and we're paying for the fact, like I mentioned, that we're not very well insulated. This little house, the office, is, so we're in better shape there. But when it comes to the main house, it gets hot, and it gets hot really quick. And I've noticed the windows are really bad too. Like if the sun is shining through it, the heat just comes right through. Whereas a good low E glass window with like double or triple panes should do a much better job of blocking that. But yeah, such is our challenge. So I've got a FLIR infrared camera, and I want to go around and maybe do like an energy audit and see if I have air leaks or other sources of where all this heat is coming from. Because if I run my air conditioning right now, it's going to absolutely kill me until I get solar. Because I'm paying $400+ a month before any air conditioning. With no air conditioning running, I was paying $400. So you can imagine, right? The good news is the second house, the office that we're in, has been 100% off-grid with those 8 solar panels I showed you and our EcoFlow batteries for about a week now. So that's the cool part. But the main house is going to be much more of a challenge. So yeah, Paul says I'm from San Diego. So he says, oh, okay. So Paul, I think I need to reach out to Paul about some stuff. That sounds good. Yeah, so the things are looking okay. I'm still really shocked at how much our electric bills are. I kind of knew they'd be high with having a pool. The pool's probably the big one, but it's just brutal. And here in San Diego, now that we're going to get summer pricing pretty soon, it's going to get worse. I am envious of Will and his Las Vegas prices. I bet you he's paying like 11 cents a kilowatt hour or something like that, which would be nice. But yeah, I think they need air conditioning much more out there though. So yeah, things are going well. Our video this week, by the way, really quickly, was on graphene supercapacitors. Now it's not really a new topic, but the new thing is that Skeleton, the company that makes them, are shipping soon, like this year, so they're at the point where it's actually going to become kind of widely available. Widely is debatable, but it'll be available. So for that reason, that's why we wanted to cover this video and talk about some of the really interesting applications for supercapacitors. So if you haven't watched that video, we'll put it down below. But yeah, it should be fun. Solar Independent Utility Systems Manual says any off-grid questions, also about 40 years of interest and 30 years of experience, which I had much more success promoting my book. Send a link to your book. I'll put it out there for sure. So Ewan says, consider big native trees and shrubs. Yeah, I have a ton of trees and I have a ton of shade. So that's actually not a problem. In fact, there's one tree, which I hate to do this, but there's one tree I might have to cut down because it casts so much shade after like 3 or 4 p.m. over the entire house that it'll just kill our solar production. One thing to know about solar panels, shade is the nemesis of solar. Even if you have a little bit of shade in one corner of the panel, it'll completely, drop the production of the panels. Now there are some panels that are a little more shade tolerant with more diodes and stuff, but I mean, by and large, solar panels hate shade. And one of the things I didn't realize when I bought this house is the sun starts going down behind the mountain, and with these trees as well, our solar production drops around 5 o'clock. Whereas in our previous house, which was perfectly south facing with the back wall, with the back roof, had nothing blocking it. And I was getting stray sunlight until like 7 o'clock at night, which is amazing. And if you think about the differences, as soon as the solar generation goes away, you got to switch to batteries, right? So that's the challenge. In my previous house, I could have had a smaller solar system because it captured light longer and a smaller battery system. But in this new house, I need a larger solar system to capture more sunlight when the sun is shining in a smaller period of time, and then store it, and then a larger battery to power my house for more hours, right? So 5 p.m., 5:30, 6 p.m., all the way till 8 o'clock in the morning, I got to be on batteries. So longer window for the batteries to run, and a smaller window for the solar. That's the kind of stuff you got to think about. I'm building a solar calculator to help kind of calculate this sort of stuff. I want to try to build some tools that can make this easy for people to understand kind of what's happening. And so, so stay tuned for that. Michael says I bought 18 panels, got my electric bill from $250 a month to about $50. That's awesome. That's really cool. One of the things that I think people don't realize is you don't have to go net zero. You don't have to do anything. You could just lower your bills, right? And if you have like tiers where when you go too high, or if you have time of use or whatever, just shaving the expensive part can have a huge impact. So definitely cool. And so he says 11 to 3 is your peak production time. Yep, absolutely. I think 1 o'clock is the absolute perfect time for me here. So Casey, how's it going, Casey? He says, when looking at places, my punch list of supporting features is long. No trees to shade, fall in the house, no HOA blocking or solar, enough room to park. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not a fan of HOAs. I wouldn't live in a house with HOA myself because I'm a little bit crazy and like experimenting and having stuff like solar panels laying down on the ground, and I don't want to have to mess with getting permission. And yeah, shade is interesting. My house is really well shaded, so it gets cool quickly. Like I mentioned, around 5, the sun goes down, but also the weather starts to really cool off as well, which is really nice. So I'm keeping most of the trees, and in fact, that one tree that I'm going to cut, I'll probably plant 5 on the other side of the property to replace it. But yeah. So Jurgen has some same numbers in Georgia. That's awesome. Good to know. Paul says, love San Diego, but hate the May gray and June gloom. So you're right. The funny thing with San Diego is May and June, where it's getting warm everywhere else, is quite cool in San Diego. And like you mentioned, it's kind of cloudy. So again, more reason why a larger solar system is not a bad idea, because even if you're only getting 20 or 30% on a larger system, that'll be more energy. And then suddenly July rolls around and it starts getting warmer. And our hottest times are actually like end of August, September, late, like almost in the fall, which is funny. But that, as the Pacific Ocean warms up, it's this huge heat sink. And so it just takes a little longer to do that. Paul says, do you have opinions on the duck curve and increasing the residential solar stock? Absolutely. So the answer to the duck curve really would be a couple of things. One is a smart home panel that you can control things with. So imagine if you had a ton of solar and you were just producing all day, and there was a time at, let's say, 1 p.m. when you're making 8 kilowatts. You have like a 10 kilowatt system or something. Imagine just pumping it into your car instead of exporting it, right? Because if you export it at noon and the demand isn't there, there's really not much for it to do. But if you charge your car one day, maybe the next day you heat a pool or you put into batteries or whatnot. There's probably clever ways to distribute energy. The car, if you have an EV, that's the obvious choice. And then the second part obviously is batteries, and that's the more expensive choice. But if Will is still here, I just watched one of his videos where he had these EF4, these lithium iron phosphate like server rack batteries, and he had a setup with a service panel, and he had 2 inverters, and he had everything kind of wired up. I was just watching it literally yesterday, which is funny. But yeah, I'd love to know his take. and how expensive batteries can be. One of the questions I've really been thinking is, do I go a kind of off-the-shelf commercial battery from a company? I feel like they've done hours and hours of testing and it's safe. Or do I try to go the DIY route? I'd love, maybe I'll have Will on to talk about that. But I just want it to be safe and reliable. I don't want to have to get in there and mess with it all the time. Thank you, Robert Klauko, for your super chat. He says, finally on time here and with Will Prowse, two legends. Will is definitely a legend. Me, I don't know. But Robert, it's really good to have you. I know you missed the last couple, so I appreciate having you here. Yeah, this is kind of a fun little short week. I'm kind of just brainstorming what we need to do. There are times when I feel like there's so much that we have to do that it feels kind of daunting. Where do we start? Oh, speaking of which, I do have some other bad news as well. I got my quote for the roof. So I think I mentioned to you guys, I found a person who got me in touch with their distributor. No installation, just for materials for a standing seam metal roof. And this little house, which has a really simple roof line, and it's about what is it? I think it's like, anyways, it's like 20 by 20 and two sides of the roof feet. It's not the biggest roof in the world, but the materials came back at $7,000, and it's for the little house, and I'd still have to install it. It would take me, I don't know how long, probably a week of work and $7,000 to do that. So I'm kind of at a loss here. We have plans to go solar, which takes money. We have all these plans to do these different projects. I'm trying to be really budget conscious because, money's very tight right now. We're doing okay, but we have huge plans, right? So I'm thinking about just mending and repairing the roof and going solar now, and then maybe in 2 years when hopefully we're doing better, revisit it. Because I would hate to re-roof it and take all this and make all the trash and then get, another asphalt shingle roof, which is super cheap, and then only to rip it up again. So I would hate to do that. And I just feel like standing seam is something maybe we're not ready for right now financially. I know it's a long-term what I want, but in terms of, the logistics of how to make it happen, maybe. So Robert, $7,000 is just for materials and it's on just the small house. I think installed it would be closer to like 17, 16,000. Which, yeah. So it's just for the metal sheets that they bend, right? And like the underlayment, which if you think about it, like huge rolls of metal, of the steel that they use, 7,000 kind of is a lot. But yeah, I guess it depends on how you look at it, right? The main house, based on the same quote, the main house would probably be like $40,000 in material, not installed. And the installation on the main house would be crazy. There's a lot of valleys and hips, and this roof is really starting to wear on me. I feel like we need to tackle it and address it, but it's also the big elephant in the room. It keeps bogging us down. The tax credit this year is 26% and it drops to 22%. So I'd love to get my solar installed this year. By the way, if anybody in the chat knows kind of about the permitting process, like what goes into getting a system permitted and applied for, I'd love to know, because I'd probably want to do that sooner than later. But the problem is on the permit, you have to specify all your gear and equipment, which means I need to buy all of my solar panels and stuff. Robert says 16,000 is on the expensive side. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. But with the tax credit going away, I'd love to have my system in now, which means I need to go buy all my panels, the microinverters, and be prepared to do this. So it kind of feels like a chicken or the egg problem that I'm trying to figure out. But there's got to be a right answer. I'll keep kind of chatting with you guys about it and figuring it out. On the battery side, I'm going to wait a little bit more. I'm not really sure what to do there, but I got to definitely start with a solar system. And one of the things I'm probably going to do is get a smaller system to start, like maybe 5 to 7 kilowatt system, and then grow and add on to it later. I feel like once you've got the permit in place and you're established, it just gets much easier. Also, I've mentioned in the past that I'm working with some companies that offer options that don't require permitting at all. There's some stuff that allows you to get up and running with solar without any permits. So that, I think, could be the most interesting thing depending on where you live and your situation. So I'll cover that shortly as well. I'm just waiting for a couple of parts to ship. The company's just kind of up and running. But there's a lot to be excited about. What about you guys? I'm kind of curious. Let me go through the chat real quick and let's see what people are up to. So Michael Phelps, I'm guessing that's not the swimmer, but maybe I'm wrong. He says 125 kilowatt hours per day in Texas. So Michael, is that your production or your usage? I can imagine, yeah, Texas is so hot and so cold. The weather is brutal there. I'm not going to lie. But yeah, I can imagine needing to run that air conditioning pretty much all day. The nice thing with San Diego is after about 7 o'clock, we just having the Pacific Ocean, it gets cool. And so you have cool evenings, which means you don't have to run the air conditioning all night. What I want to do also is get a whole house fan. How many of you guys have heard of that? I had it in my old house and I love it. As soon as the outdoor temperature drops, you just turn the whole house fan on, open a couple of windows, and it's pulling like 3,000 to 5,000 CFM and completely cooling you off. So Michael, 125 per day is massively huge, as you know. But I mean, in Texas, it's not uncommon. I know some friends that are the same. Is it cold? Is it cool at night where you live? Like if like 8 o'clock at night or so is just a cool at night, 30 kilowatt hours. Wow. I love that you have all the numbers and data. Yeah. Do you live like, what part of Texas? I'm curious as well. So like Will Prouse lives in Las Vegas. Same sort of thing. It could be 99 degrees at 2 a.m. And if it's hot like that into the night, there's nothing you can do but run the air conditioning. And for me, I have a hard time sleeping when it's really hot out. So yeah, that's just reality for people. So Paul says we're using a thermal battery that helps us store more energy on site for DHW without gas. Interesting. I'd like to know more about that. So Michael's in Dallas and okay. Yeah, I'm curious, Michael, if you've thought about doing like a geothermal system. I'm working with a company that we'll be talking about that soon to get a geothermal, a ground source heat pump system installed. And here in San Diego, I think I want to do it just as a science experiment, so I have the data. But I think in Texas, for example, it'd be a huge benefit because when it's hot outside, you can dump the heat into the ground and vice versa in the cold winters. Plumber Stacker, how's it going, man? Nice to see you as well. Yeah. So yeah, what else are people working on? I need to look into some air conditioning upgrades or something because I'm afraid to run my air conditioning in my main house. This is the part that drives me crazy about living in San Diego. Is I had solar in my old house, so I forgot about this. But now being back to square one and having a $400 electric bill without air conditioning running, it's like traumatizing. I feel like scared to turn it on. So I got to figure out some solutions to try to cool the house a little bit until I do go solar. But I wouldn't be surprised if my bills aren't $800 a month for a couple of months. But maybe it might make sense to do that because right now, if I had winter no AC usage bills and then I got solar and I said, here's how much I'm saving, that wouldn't be accurate, right? I was just telling my wife this. Maybe we should run the air conditioning and get a real and accurate look at here's what it would cost to actually have this house. And then we would have the winter and the summer data. And then knowing we got solar, we could better calculate our return on investment or our payoff period sooner. Maybe that's something we should do. Yeah, there's... So Paul's asking about the solar absorption cooling. I've actually had, my previous house, I had solar for 10 years. I didn't really see a huge drop off with heat, PTSD after each electric bill. You're totally right, man. I get that email and I cringe. Before I go back to Paul's point, speaking of cringing at your bills, I mentioned I had a video where I got the Flume water meter and I went around and tracked down a couple of leaks. And I had a leak that was a 0.28 gallon per minute leak, which translates to 400 gallons a day, just leaking out into my yard. It was through a sprinkler controller head. And so I knew that my my water bill was going to be crazy because it's a 2-month billing period. And we had turned the irrigation line back on once the rain stopped. And so I knew it was going to be really bad. And it came in and it was almost $400 for my water bill. Normally it's closer to $160. And so if I hadn't gotten the Flume water meter, I would have known I had a problem when that came. But even then, I might have thought, are we taking more showers? Are we watering the grass too much? I would probably have never have known about the leak. But because I found it, the window of time that I had the leak issue was smaller, and I got it figured out. And now I'm back under control. And in the future, if I had a leak, I would know right away, which actually has already happened once. But anyways, data and tracking is a huge part of it. How many of you guys have infrared cameras, or do you guys like look at like your insulation in your walls and stuff and figure out sources of leak? I'm actually thinking about hiring a professional to do this. Like, I've mentioned that I have huge gaps under my doors. We're not weather sealed at all in this house. This house is like completely, like, it's a horrible house in terms of being like really well sealed in, which means that if you have air conditioning running, that hot air is just seeping right back in, and the cold air is seeping out. So I might want to pay someone to do that, because I'm not really sure if I have the patience to go over every door and weather seal. Weather sealing a door is not easy. I've tried it before and it didn't work out well. So maybe I'll hire a professional to do that. Maybe get some blown insulation in the attic, radiant barriers and stuff. It just it's summer is here, and I wish I was a little better prepared, but it's all good. It's gonna be fun. We'll share stuff with you. So Paul says, have you had a blower door test? That's what I think I need to do. I think I need to have someone come and test it. I mean, it would make no sense to test it now, because you could literally look out and see sunlight everywhere. So maybe we have somebody come in and do a job of sealing things up, and then we do a test to identify things we didn't even know we had. So Tom says, living at the beach in San Diego didn't require AC. Now my tiny house, my boat, I can run my AC all night long on battery storage. That's awesome. So Tom, living on the beach in San Diego, if you live on the coast, I'm 10 miles inland. And 10 miles inland, right now today, they're projecting temperatures to reach like 88, almost 90. That's pretty uncommon. Normally we'll be in the 80s in the summer. But if you're on the coast of San Diego, you can take 10, 12 degrees off that. You'll be, in the 70s. And you don't really need air conditioning. And most people I know who live right along the coastal areas, it stays even cooler. It's really great. But you have that cloud covering that marine layer, and you have less solar generation as well. So honestly, it's a bit of a wash, because where I live, there's much more sunshine. And once I get solar and I can run my air conditioning without having PTSD, I think it'll be okay. Michael says, after 3 weeks after I installed Flume, my water company announced they will provide all usage details from their wireless meters. That's interesting. I've never heard of that. But I mean, is it real time? Is it? Let me know how that works out, Michael. That's very interesting. I've never heard of anybody offering that kind of data. And my guess would be that it's not going to be as high fidelity, every minute by minute like Flume will be. But maybe it is. I'm curious. Texas, that sounds pretty cool. Ewan says blown-in insulation is cheap and effective. Yeah, absolutely. And Jimmy in Texas says, I never got my home water meter to work. That's interesting. So we have a link. I'll put a link to our website, but we had a link to the levels of compatibility. There's some water meters that aren't compatible with it, which is the only way it would not work. And so you'll have to double check and see if it was on there. If not, try to look to get a refund. Yeah, Flume was super cool. It was really, really awesome. I was really happy with that. Next up is electricity monitoring. So I think I've mentioned to you guys, I've been talking with Span. I've been a huge fan of Span for a while. They make a smart panel with level by level circuit monitoring. You can check what each outlet is pulling. Actually, so does the EcoFlow. So here's a look at my EcoFlow panel right now. By the way, I'm running entirely on sunshine right now. I'm charging the batteries back up, and we'll be running on the batteries in the evening. But this house is off grid. I could flip off the grid and we wouldn't skip a beat. And the EcoFlow also does provide monitoring on a circuit by circuit level. I don't know if you can see that, but like every circuit in the house is monitored separately. So Span does something similar. And I think for the big house, I'm going to have Span. They're going to provide me a free unit, but I think I'm going to have to pay for the installation. So I'm hoping that that'll add a little bit of intelligence and show me where all my energy usage is. And if you don't want to do that, because it is expensive, I think the Span is going to be $3,000-ish, maybe another $1,000 to install. Then Lumen Smart Panel, Paul, send me a link. I'll check it out. I haven't heard of any. Span to me is kind of the industry leader in that space, and I kind of wanted to just go with them. But if you don't want to do that, I'm also going to go get an Emporia system. I don't know if Bong Hollywood is on here, but yeah, there's some of you guys probably know about this. Do they make a 100 amp panel? If you're talking about span, I think they make 100 and 200. Yeah, they don't make a 300 yet, I think. So Emporia makes some really great energy monitors, and they're the CT clamp style, and you have to open up your panel and basically just clamp every circuit you want to monitor, and it can monitor up to 16 circuits, which means you can pretty much track your whole house and identify where the leaks are, right? So you'll be surprised at how much some of these appliances draw when they're on standby mode, especially electronics. And this is why I hate, most people who know me know, I don't like Google and Amazon products. If you've ever had any Amazon product, go look at how much energy it's using when you're not using it. And also go look at the network traffic. It's sending data and doing all kinds of stuff. I just don't trust them, right? Because I can turn on my own switch or grab my phone. I don't need voice assistance for listening 24 hours a day. But some of these appliances, even like PlayStations, right, Xboxes, they're constantly connected. They're constantly communicating over network. And some of these things can use 25, 30 watts turned off. You think it's off. Smart TVs are similar. I was actually talking to somebody who says that their smart TV was pulling 15 or 18 or 20 watts phantom load just sitting there. So what you can do is you can start to identify where the main points of interest are. And then maybe you can get some smart switches you can turn off, or you can figure some stuff out. But the key really is to lower your useless consumption first, right? I'm not going to sit here and tell you to not run air conditioning. Be comfortable, live a good life. But what good is a phantom draw appliance for you? Nothing, right? You think it's off and it's not. So I would say things like that where you can get a replacement, a drop-in replacement would be a good idea. And then you can, all LED bulbs. Show of hands, who here has 100% LED lights in their house? You guys absolutely should. And if you like the look of incandescent lights, they make those cool kind of filament looking LEDs now, which are my favorite. I always buy those. They look like they have that cool look of an incandescent, but it's pure LED. And you're not heating your house, which then needs to be cooled and wasting electricity and everything else. Get all LED lights. Check out where your phantom drain devices are. Put a power strip on them. Turn them off when you're not in use, like Michael said. Exactly. So yeah, there's going to be a whole series that I need to do about monitoring electricity next. And what I really want to get to is a point where, for the people that have solar panels, your production is a curve, right? And somebody mentioned the duck curve before, but it's 8 o'clock, you're just starting off, and then you're at 1 o'clock, you're high production, and then you taper off. So there's this kind of curve. Imagine how you could use that during the day. Let's say you have a heat pump water heater and you have it kind of set idle until 9 o'clock when the sun starts shining, and then you have it heating right then and there. That way you're using electricity from solar, right? Excess solar, maybe. And then let's say around 1 o'clock, you have to switch over and start charging your car, and so that stops and the car starts charging. But imagine being able to control the major appliances like car charging, water heating, possibly your pool heating, pool pumps, anything big, any of those big appliances, and air conditioning, right? Imagine you could have, okay, I'm going to charge my car for 20 minutes while the sun is shining, and then my air conditioning, the temperature in my room got hot again. Now that car charging drops off, the AC kicks in and is running kind of under that line, if you will. If you're making 5 kilowatts of solar, you could potentially theoretically run an air conditioner, right? And then the air conditioner runs for 45 minutes and then kicks off, and then the car charging resumes for 45 minutes, right? I mean, that's what I want. I want a smart house like that. I want a house that says, here's my resource, solar, sunshine. Here's what I need to do in the course of a day. I need to charge my car enough to, offset the 20 miles I drove today. I need to heat my water. I need to run this pool pump. I need to, run a double oven. Maybe my wife and I are going to have lunch. We want to run our electric oven, right? That's what I want to see. And I'm still trying to figure out how that's possible, because it seems like it's kind of tricky. It's not automated or automatic. So somebody mentioned Sense, which is a monitor. So Sense is really cool. What it does is it looks at the signature of your appliances. Like every little electrical appliance has like a different signature, how it turns on and runs and So Sense kind of has AI around tracking all that kind of stuff. But the problem with Sense is that all you do is you're managing your entire load, so it can't track every single panel. And it's more money, by the way. The Emporia system is cheaper. Now, I haven't messed with it myself, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. But the Emporia system's cool because I think it's cheaper than the Sense, and it can track 16 circuits individually, which is pretty cool. Yeah. So does anyone know of a reputable company in Phoenix for solar? Absolutely. Phoenix is a huge solar market. Grayman, send me a message. Here, I'll just put it right here. Send me a message. Happy to connect with you. But absolutely, I think I probably had maybe half a dozen people in Phoenix go solar from either Drone Code or one of my companies. But yeah, it's a great market for solar for sure. Somebody, disabled camper says, I was told you can't get disconnected from grid. This might be true. This might be true in terms of you have to pay a connect fee, a grid connect fee, because the thought process, and you can agree or disagree with this. I don't even know how I feel about it, but they're going to say, oh, well, we did the hard work of trenching and running all this electrical line to your house, and now you don't want to be a customer, but we already did the work. But it's like, well, I didn't ask you to, but you wanted it because you want electricity. Who knows the right answer to that one? But the reason why some of these places don't let you do that is because they want you to pay some baseline fee. Now, my thinking is if it's like $10 a month, which is kind of just the minimum fee, and you're kind of off grid and you have your own little thing, just shut off the breaker and don't deal with the grid and live your life. And then if, let's say, you have 10 cloudy days in a row, or there's some freak event or something, you can always turn the grid back on and use it when you need it, right? But having it as backup is never a bad thing. And if their connection fees are $10 or so, that's reasonable. If it was much more than that, they would really irritate me too. But that sounds reasonable. And it does, Michael says depends on where you live. You're right. It does depend on where you live. But like, I don't think in California I'm allowed to disconnect. These monopolies are powerful, right? Sorry. These monopolies are powerful. And they pass laws to make it so you can't, you have to be a customer. Could you imagine if a gas company, like a gasoline company said, no, you have to pump gasoline and you have to pump it every day. That's kind of what these guys are doing, but it's a really crappy system. That's what I hate about the fact that the company and the utility line maintainer is all one company. It just it leads to bad things, I think. Yeah. So I'm hearing some chat about a flywheel. I'm guessing this is for energy storage. So 900 kilowatt hours, 900 kilowatt hours flywheel. That must be pretty massive. A flywheel sounds pretty cool though. Maybe we'll build one and see if we could kind of engineer a working system. The problem with things like that is the danger and safety, right? Solar is really easy. Solar is just dead simple. There's nothing to go wrong or worry about, right? I mean, if you've got a bunch of solar panels connected together and the voltage goes up, that can get trickier, but it's really simple. But energy storage is tricky because what you're doing is you're taking a lot of energy and putting it into a small space. And you can imagine the risk, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Gasoline has a lot of energy density and it's dangerous, right? Batteries, I mean, you can mitigate and take care of stuff. But when you put a lot of energy to a small place, that's kind of scary. Compressed air, right? If you have a big old air compressor and you fill it up too high and something pops off of there, that's going to go flying, right? It's energy storage is tricky that way. So with a flywheel, I would hate to have not thought of everything and get one and it goes careening off the axis and goes flying and hurting somebody, right? So but I would love to build something. Maybe I'll do a small scale flywheel. And Robert says, solar and batteries mean no moving parts. You're exactly right. Yeah, 20,000 RPM flywheel. It's just, I mean, is there maintenance involved? You have to, do you have to lubricate and grease bearings and things? There's just questions like that. But solar and batteries, just kind of dead simple. So yeah, I'll check out what Electric Cyclist and Bob from Fully Charged have done. That sounds interesting. So are there any other cool products you guys have found lately that you want me to you think I should check out? I'm kind of looking at the next thing I should buy to review kind of thing. I do still have to install a smart water sprinkler. Does anybody have a like a Wi-Fi smart sprinkler system? I had the Rockio in the previous house, and the reason why was, I mean, they were they were one of the first into the market. There's a couple of other options now, but it was bulletproof and it worked really well. And it does cool things like it monitors the rain, and it won't, you know, it'll skip cycles if it's rained recently or it's rained enough. And it also does things like if you have like a lawn or if you have any kind of a slope in the ground, and if you have sprinklers running all the time, that water is just kind of run off. So what they do is, and this is all automatic. You just say run for 30 minutes. It'll run for 5 minutes, kind of let it sink, and then come on again for 5 minutes and let it sink. And it just does all this stuff automatically. It'll do weather skipping and things. So I bought one. It's sitting here. I just haven't installed it because I have to trench new lines. There's like 3 different places where the water, yeah, water year in California is drought. Yeah, I know. That's why it's really important to be very mindful of the water usage. I've had some comments about my lawn. I do have a lawn, but the good news is it doesn't need much water. I'm actually shocked by how good this lawn is. It's a Bermuda, which is a deep rooting grass. It's what they use on the greens on a golf course. So Bermudas are really cool because they kind of put out shoots and they spread really well and they dig their roots really deep. So the best thing to do is water them for like some time, you know, like a longer period of time, but only once a week. Because then the water, you know, sinks down lower and lower and it promotes the roots to continue to go further and further down into the ground. If you water it every day, then the water's on the shallow side and the roots will actually just be very shallow. And then you're basically feeding a system that never ends. You have to keep watering it every day. And it's been okay. I am thinking about a clover lawn, and there's something else that one of my patrons one of my Discord members had mentioned. I'm going to look into that. But right now, the lawn is green. I water it like once every 8 or 9 days, and it looks great. I honestly can't believe how good it looks for how little water I'm giving it. And remember, I want to eventually have a gray water system, but which will require a lot of investment and ripping out drywall again, which I'm sorry, but after doing that office and getting everything finished, the thought of doing drywall again is not something I want to do right now. But I do need to eventually get into it. But I'll start with solar first. And also, I should take in a picture. Let me see if I can have. I don't know if Claudia's watching, but maybe she can send me a picture of our zucchini and squash and stuff. She's been doing a lot of vegetable growing, and we have a little garden that she's building, and we're getting some insane yields of squash and zucchini. I think we have watermelon growing right now. We haven't shared that stuff with you guys, but that gets into something I wanted to talk about. So I've gotten a lot of comments about the Lomi composter, the Lomi, the system, the tabletop system. And I actually had a call with them because I said, I want to chat with you. You've sponsored some videos. They're a really cool they're a really great partner. They've, not every sponsor is easy to deal with, but they've been really great. And so I had a chat with them about how this whole thing works. And pretty much what they told us is, it's not compost at the end of a Lomi cycle. I don't know if you guys are familiar with what I'm talking about, but my wife has been using this thing for a couple of months and putting all that dirt into this area that now is our garden. So it definitely does work. I think it's if you can compost yourself, you should compost yourself. But it definitely does work. I'll talk more about it later. Yeah. So think of it like to take your food scrap and to get it back into soil. It takes X energy, right, and time. So the energy comes naturally from the sun, the microbes. It heats it up and stuff. You can kind of speed things along because when you take the stuff that comes out of the Lomi, it'll become compost much faster than it would otherwise, but at the cost of energy. So that's the trade-off. And I used to have a drum composter, and it always stunk, and it took months, and I had to kind of mix it and things. And yeah, it's something you can do. Yeah, it's not a pressure cooker at all. it kind of dehydrates and mixes and stuff. Basically, it does like, it gets you like 80% of the way there. I just wanted to bring it up because I was thinking about the food that we've been growing, but it's been really nice. Yeah, so here's, yeah, this is the one. Let me see if I can share this picture. But yeah, it's something, I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see it's like a 18-inch freaking zucchini. It's crazy how well it's worked. But anyways, we'll talk more about that. There's some people who are much more well versed with compost and stuff than I can learn from. So I don't want to be. I'm not telling you guys stuff. I'll learn from you. Yeah. So we've got some things we're working on, but it's been tough. It's been tough to get everything finished and keep the Thursday videos and try to get more of our Tuesday home series stuff. So we will try to keep it going. Gray water, the gray water system is going to be so cool once I have it. Yeah, I think there's some chat about composting and stuff. It's an incredible process. So Robert mentioned something about the compost roof. So here's something interesting. If you compost well and it's an aerobic process, meaning there's air involved, there's a much less methane created than if it's an anaerobic process, which is what happens if you put food scrap, like you make lunch, you make dinner, you take all the leftover food and you put it in your trash can, that goes into a landfill. And in that, it gets buried and sunk and there's no oxygen. It becomes an anaerobic process and that creates methane. So if you're not going to do any composting or whatever, at least take your table scraps and put it into your green bin, right? The yard bin, because then it will go get somewhere. It'll go get composted somewhere, as opposed to going to a landfill and creating methane. I forgot to mention that. Yeah, I would love to. Does anybody have any kind of a smart HVAC system with like vents that can open and close in different places? That's something that I would love to know more about. Michael says Earthship. Yeah, I haven't been saying Earthship lately. I was trying to find a term that had enough interest and enough people knew about it. Like a net zero home is kind of a mouthful. Earthship is a little more fun to say. My house is not an Earthship by any means, but yeah, I understand your point. So I have both Emporia, Panel One, and Smart Meter One. The Smart Meter One stopped working in Emporia. Interesting. I would love to hear more because I was thinking about getting one and I'd love all that kind of feedback. So they have a Panel One and a Smart Meter One. Okay, I'd have to look into that. But that's really great to hear because I want to get that kind of feedback. Somebody in the chat mentioned the beehive, which let me see. The beehive for irrigation. MDC Forerunner says beehive for irrigation. I've been looking at that, and maybe I'll buy that one too, and maybe just keep both and give one away or something. But I would love to do the beehive for the smart Wi-Fi water irrigation system as well. And the reason is that one talks to Flume, from what I've heard. So there's a way to connect the beehive and Flume. So when your beehive kicks on and says, okay, water this little irrigation circuit, these 5 sprinklers, the Flume can tell it, like it's using this much water. David says, my Lomi quit working and they don't return inquiries. All right, I'm going to put my email here for for the gentleman in Phoenix who wanted to go solar, email me, right? For the person who had a question about the Emporia, message me because I'll look into this and see if I can get somebody over there. I'll pin that comment. Okay, and as far as your Lomi goes, let me know, David. I'll get on that because I just had a chat with them literally yesterday where I took all the questions I've been getting in the comment section and I kind of shared it with them, and I will pass that along, David, for sure. So email me. So Tom says there are a lot of ways to get to net zero, but getting net negative is the key for CCAs. Yeah. So that's part of why I think rather than doing a DIY battery, I want to go with like a a company like an off-the-shelf commercial battery for the house, because it'll have all the certifications required. And let's say, some time goes by and SDG&E realizes like we're buying our electricity at 8 p.m. for $2. Any homeowner who gives us energy will buy it from you for $150 or whatever. That could be a huge incentive. Imagine if I had 20 or 30 kilowatt hours of energy storage that I could dump at that period of time to help the grid, right? To not turn on a peaker power plant that's natural gas or something. So totally agree with you. So Tom, my goal was to be net zero, but also have the possibility to export to the grid if it's financially advantageous. And part of the reason is I'm not thinking I'm going to become some rich millionaire selling electricity to my electricity. That's probably going to be not much money. Well, we'll see. I don't know. But the main reason why is because I want to know how I can help all of you, anybody watching, return on their investment as fast as possible. So the Powerwall, for example, has changed. One of our Discord members, one of my good friends, Bong, is working on a write-up. We're going to do a video about Powerwall changes, and he has a really cool setup for his Powerwall to really maximize his payback period. But I want to figure out if there's a way to get some of these buyback periods, shortened up. And it very well might be that if some of these kinds of metering agreements or power purchase agreements come into play, depending on where you live, it could be pretty lucrative. Robert says buy the F-150 and use its battery. Absolutely, man. I was thinking about this. I still have my Cybertruck reservation. There's something about the Cybertruck I really do love, but I do love that F-150 as well, and it could be the home battery part. Yeah, that sounds pretty good, actually. Man, I'm tempted, but I think they're all sold out. They're hard to get, right? There's really no EVs right now that are widely available, which really bugs me. Flare Smart Vent, MDC Forerunner. Do you have experience? Have you used it? I actually saw that on Amazon. I was thinking about buying it to try it out, but I hadn't heard anything. And I normally like to get a little nudge from somebody who's had it before they do it. They're talking about heat pumps and stuff. You guys know how I love me some heat pumps. I'm really curious about the ground source, geothermal system install. I'm really excited about that. Hoping to do that soon because I think it would help us with this summer we're having. Dusty, I don't know if Dusty's on, but Dusty, one of our friends and viewers, he lives in Minnesota, and he was telling me that they were having record heat waves in June, which is unheard of where he lives. And man, the climate is just changing. It's kind of alarming, honestly. We have droughts here in California. Depending where you live, it could be different. But yeah, honestly, my big takeaway is have resiliency, right? Have batteries and have solar at your house. That way, if something crazy happens, you could still run your life and save yourself money. It's a win-win. Robert says 57 likes. Let's get the likes up. Yeah, let's hit that like button. Honestly, guys, I didn't promote this early enough and whatnot, just like before, but I love this live stream and being able to chat with you. There's not, it's really just a chance to chat with all of you and get all your good ideas. So, make your own pond geo heat pump. Yeah, I like that idea. That's interesting. I could use my pool. I could heat my pool with it as well. But yeah, I'm really glad I get this opportunity. And like I've said before, we'll try to do this every week. And hopefully we have better. Michael says you have a great community. I appreciate that, Michael, and I appreciate you. Hearing your numbers exactly about how much energy you use every day. I just love that kind of context because it's easy to say, my bill's so high. But when you can give me exact numbers, I appreciate that. So I appreciate you. And thank you for being here as well. Yeah, so it's a little tricky to figure out what I should do next. What do you guys think I should do? Should I do more? I got to get the solar up, right? That's the big one with the tax credit going away. So, by the way, I kind of touched on this earlier, but for everybody who's thinking about going solar, remember, so Wiley Coyote says engineering chat. So there's a bunch of engineers, but not everybody's an engineer in there. There's a good spread. But if you're thinking about going solar, this would be a good year to do it. Next year is not terrible. It's 22% next year, right? The difference is 4% from 26 to 22. But after next year, I think the tax credit is going away. And you guys have been watching the news with the Supreme Court and things like, I don't really have a lot of confidence that they're going to renew it again, to be honest with you. I think, yeah, my faith in things is kind of at a low point right now. But yeah, the show must go on. This year, 26%, 22% next year. If you're thinking about going solar, you're on the fence about it. Definitely at least go get some quotes and talk about it, sleep on it, right? Don't do anything in a rash manner. You guys know how I feel about that. But at least know what it would cost, what it would take, and try to get yourself some of that tax credit money. One of the things I've heard from people, which drives me crazy, they'll renew 26% forever. Michael, if it was like the fossil fuel industry, I'd agree with you, but this, I'm not sure. They have renewed it so far, but I don't know. We'll see. I forgot what I was going to say. Yeah, the tax credit. One of the big things that the misconceptions that I have, and one of the comments that drives me crazy on this channel. I'm sure none of you would say this. I think you guys would know how this works. But I'll get these jokers who come in and say, here's another guy getting solar panels that I had to pay for. You had to pay for what? A tax credit is me keeping my money instead of giving it to the government. That's what people don't realize is, like, you're not getting like some imaginary pool of money and people aren't sending it to you. You get to keep what you made. So if you made $100,000 and you owed $20,000 in taxes and you got solar, well, maybe you get to keep 5,000 of that 20 that you would have had to pay. It's not somebody else's money. It's your money that you got to keep. Anyway, small thing. It's a nitpick that drives me crazy. Like, there's clearly, sound bites or talking points that some news channel is playing all the time that people just listen to and repeat. But yeah, solar is a great thing to incentivize, right? We as people, if we have government, we should have incentives for the right things, right? We should incentivize people to do the right things. If I don't know, if getting solar, right? If you could do something to help alleviate the grid, help not need, be able to change the dynamics of, how we produce our power, cleaning up our act, do it. Those people don't do taxes. I want to have some faith and say that, people, to be fair, the American tax laws are a little complicated. And I don't think a lot of the people, understand that, but yeah. Yeah. I think you guys clearly understand how a tax credit works, but yeah, it's absurd, the levels of misinformation sometimes, but we try to keep it positive and be optimistic and happy, right? We want to try to move things in the right direction. So if there's products that you think I should review, I would love to chat with all of you. So Wally Coyote says, I would love to see HVAC and water heat pumps. So there's never a right time. You know what? I'll share this, right? I mean, by the way, I've been running this channel full time for a year. I went full time in June last year. Juan is here, editor-in-chief. Do you remember what day it was? I want to say it was around this time. I'm officially 1 year into running this channel. We have paid the bills. We have done it. I have really not eaten into my savings. I'm not paying myself a full salary yet, but we've been doing this for a year, which is pretty amazing, right? And I was thinking about this the other day. There's never a right time for certain things in life. Like, for example, having children, right? If you sit there, I don't know how many of you guys have children or not, but if you're going to sit there and plan the right day to have children, it'll never happen, right? It's like you're never ready for it. You're never ready to lose sleep. Claudia's here. So Claudia Roy is my wife, for those of you guys don't know. And, we, especially her, we haven't had a good night's sleep in a long time. Like, you're never prepared, but sometimes you got to just take a leap of faith, right? There's never a right time to quit your job and pursue your company idea, your goal, your dream, right? Some things there's never a right time. And so I've kind of been feeling very financially, I've been trying not to spend money on things and trying to keep things under control, but there's never a right time to just start making content. So maybe tomorrow or maybe next week, I'm going to go buy a heat pump water heater, rip out our natural gas one and just install it. Because, there's never the right moment, but let's just start doing this stuff, right? that's kind of how this office was, right? We had that EcoFlow. EcoFlow is like, hey, we have this thing. You want to install it? And I was like, okay. And that kind of pushed us to do all this other stuff. And as a result, now we're off grid. This live stream is 100% solar powered. So thank you, Robert, for the second super chat. I appreciate you, man. Robert, I forget where you are, but we need to get together, and I need to take you to dinner or coffee or something, because you've been an awesome supporter for so long, all the way back in the vice versa days. I appreciate you for the anniversary and to lower the punch from the monthly bill. I appreciate you, man. That's awesome. But there's never the right time. But I gotta have faith that, like, let's say I had to buy it myself. The heat pump water heaters are not cheap. It's gonna be like $1,500. But if I do it and I share my experience with all of you, you just gotta have faith that the long-term result and the community and viewership and stuff is gonna pay out, right? That's just the bottom line. And I think I'm ready to make that realization. We are, we're doing better. We're in a position now where things are looking up, but we do have a huge amount of spend in front of us, right? The solar system. I'm projecting 20,000 for that, right? For solar. And any roof work, that's what's really got me stressed out, is the roof work as well. But don't you worry, I'm going to do it. These live streams allow us to tell you what's on our mind. And I love that, right? Because I've been kind of doing all this quietly. My wife and I and Juan, like, we're, quietly by ourselves. And now you guys get to kind of hear what we're thinking or what we're going through or what we're trying to plan. And maybe you have a better idea. Maybe you're better at this than I am. I've always wondered if I'm the right person to run this company. I always feel like I don't know what I don't know, but we'll keep marching ahead and making stuff. Yeah, Claudia's here. Maybe we should get either a heat pump water heater, or let's get crazy. We'll buy a heat pump clothes dryer and we'll try that out. My wife is already complaining about our dryer taking too long, so I don't know if she would love that, because I think a heat pump clothes dryer would take longer. But it would be cool. It would be fun, and we could collect all that water and just throw it on some plants or something. So Robert says, let's do it the other way around. You come to the Swiss Alps and I'll pay for lunch. How about this? If you live in the Swiss Alps, we'll come visit and I'll take you to dinner. That's amazing, man. That is one of the most beautiful countries on this planet, and it is wildly expensive there. I remember my dad was telling me he was there a couple of years ago, and he was like, a can of Coke was like the equivalent of like $8 US or something ridiculous. Paul Morton sent a huge super chat, super sticker, I think they call it. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, Paul. I don't think I've seen you before. Or I think maybe I have once or twice, but thank you. I really appreciate you. That's super awesome. I really appreciate it, and we'll put that to use buying something cool to show off and to share with you. Really appreciate you. Yeah, the Swiss Alps. That sounds really cool. Here's one more thing, by the way. I'm just opening up, and just, if you want to know what's going on with the company, this is the place to be, apparently. But we were talking with VinFast. They're a Vietnamese car company, and I've been really interested in them because for two reasons. One, they have a third row SUV, right? So right now, I think the only third row SUV you can buy are the Tesla Model X, which is $120,000, or Rivian R1S, which is $95,000, something like that. So they have this third row model. Let me see if I'll try to pull it up here in a second. So they have this third row model that they call the VF9, and it is around $56,000, which got us interested because we still have a gas SUV, which we need to figure out what we're going to do with, right? And driving it is just horrible. Our gas prices are reaching $7 a gallon, and we just pumped. Juan, you're in the chat, and Juan pumped it yesterday because we went to Lowe's to get that tabletop that I showed you the picture of. So Juan, what did you pay in gas? I'm curious. I bet you it was horrible. The model, Claudia says Model Y. You're right. The Model Y is another one. The Model Y it can't replace the Honda Pilot because it's just tiny, right? The Honda Pilot is almost like having a pickup truck. So that's the car I've been trying to replace. Grayman says, have you seen the Aptera? I have. Grayman, go to our channel. I have a full interview with like their co-founders and everything about Aptera. So go watch that video. It's on there. And so VinFast wanted us to attend an event in Vietnam. And at first I was like, well, it's my wife's birthday. If I can bring her, I'll go. Otherwise, I don't want to go by myself. It would just be logistically challenging. But they're excited to have us, and so we're thinking we're gonna go. And so we're gonna make a video about VinFast. But these sorts of things allow us to do other things. It's kind of running a business is a tricky thing that way. But $100, that sounds low, Juan. It must not have been fully empty, because I pumped the Pilot up from full and it was 123 one time. Anyways, brutal. But so with VinFast, what's cool is they have a cheaper price, and there's interesting ways that they're doing it. So I'm gonna try to share that story with all of you guys, and maybe I'll go live in Vietnam. We'll see how that goes. But it'll be a fun little break. It won't be as cool as I wanted it to be, but it'll be okay. Hybrid Rheem water heater, 50 gallon. Oh, that sounds good. And $1,200. That I could swing that. That sounds pretty reasonable. My water heater is old, and so yeah, replacing it is probably not a bad idea. It's like 15 or 18 years old. It's time for it to go. So Electric Cyclist says the Neo ES8 is a 7-seater you could get. I don't know, are they available here? Are they available yet? I'm sure more of them will come to the market, but yeah. So Amin Sheriff says, you need an Armageddon SUV. Don't replace your ICE SUV. You know what's funny? You read my mind. I think you and I saw one of your comments earlier. You and I are thinking exactly the same way. I'm never going to sell the Honda Pilot. First of all, the utility and the functionality of that car is just worth way more than it would be worth to sell it. So we're going to keep that car forever. And part of it is like, for example, let's say we're going to go on a road trip or on a Home Depot run. We need to go to the dump to take a bunch of crap out to the trash. That car would be perfect for all of that, right? So, and it's also a backup car if something happens, or like my Tesla Model 3 has a cracked windshield, which I got to replace, and there's huge wait times for. So if I had to put that, to get it repaired, I need a backup car, right? So as long as you don't drive it very much, which we don't, we filled the Honda Pilot up maybe 5 times this entire year. Not even 5 times, 4 or 5 times a whole year. And that's because we drive the Tesla 99% of the time. But a backup car is a good idea. Yeah. So Robert, living in Switzerland, not only are your prices crazy, they've been crazy forever. So, but being this crazy is new to us. Our gas prices weren't like that back in the day. So Tennessee is $4.30, but for Steve in Tennessee, I'm sure people are complaining about that $4.30 because it was probably $2.30 not too long ago, right? So prices are just generally up everywhere, and electric vehicles are so cool for that reason. So also, I've got a couple other future videos that I'm excited to share with you guys around some of the things that we're talking about, right? So we got a lot cooking up. Also, today is, so really quickly, Juan, who is my brother-in-law, that's Claudia, my wife's brother. He is our star people. He's the guy, if you've seen a video of ours, he edits a lot of them. And then we also have 2 new editors. That way we're able to do the 2 series, right? We can do the Thursday videos and Tuesday videos. Brim, who you've seen in some of our videos. If you watched the video on the EcoFlow Smart Home panel, Brim was in that one. So Brim and Juan will be in the office here on site. And our 3rd editor is one of Claudia's really good friends. Her name's Alejandra. And Alejandra is here visiting us right now. She's our 3rd editor. And it's her daughter's birthday. Her name is Sarah. And it's her birthday today. So we're going to have a little shindig and have some fun and celebrate. So happy birthday, Sarah. I don't know if they can hear us or not. But I think we're going to wrap this up a little bit shorter today so we can go get ready for that. And thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. This is kind of like my favorite part of the week, honestly, at this point. And we're not set up yet. We're still working on it. That blue light was supposed to be on, wasn't it, one? Did it just turn off? Anyway, Robert says happy birthday to Sarah. Yeah, thank you. We appreciate you guys. If there's any cool products that you want to hear about or you want us to go check out, maybe let us know. And to the people I told you to email me. If you've like the Lomi person or getting solar in Phoenix, whatnot, email me. We'll hook you guys up. I think we're at well over 200 or 300 people now have gone solar with drone quote, mostly with our channel. And I always encourage you guys, you can email me how that goes later, but it's really, really cool. Thank you guys. Sorry again for not having more home stuff, but I hope I showed some pictures and kind of showed you why. And we'll talk soon. All right. Have a great week, everybody. This is Ricky, and we'll see you guys next time.